got exactly what she wanted. She married into a wealthy family, but her rich husband was hardly ever home and she couldn't bear the loneliness. Eventually, she had an affair, got caught, and ended up contracting HIV. In the end, she was kicked out of the house in disgrace. As for me, I married a movie star. Not just once, but 3 times. After we got married, he loved me with every fiber of his being. The 2 of us became the model couple, admired throughout the entire entertainment industry. My sister grew so jealous that she lost her mind and killed both of us. Then we were both reborn, on the very day we were to be married. This time she acted fast and told our father that she wanted to marry the movie star. I laughed. Her husband from before might not have been home often, but he gave her more than $10 million a month in spending money, a life most people could only dream of. And now she didn't want that? My father called the 2 of us in so we could each choose who to marry for the family alliance. My sister glanced at a photo of Ethan Carter with clear disdain, then picked up the photo of my ex-husband from our past life, Ryan Blake. She pouted and said sweetly, "Dad, I want to marry him." Then, full of pride, she shoved Ethan Carter's photo into my hands and said in a syrupy tone, "Sis, I'll let you have the top bachelor in Capital City. You deserve only the best, so there's no need to thank me. It's what a good little sister should do." My mother frowned and hurried to stop her. "No, Haley, you can't. Ethan Carter is the one your father and I chose for you. He's already made it onto the Forbes list at such a young age. How could you give him up to your sister? Only you are a perfect match for him. Our family and the Carters have always been close, and your grandmother had even promised the engagement in the past." My mother had often encouraged Haley and Ethan to spend more time together to build their relationship. Haley leaned close and whispered something into her ear. Mom looked surprised. "Are you sure about this, Haley?" Haley blinked her big, pretty eyes and pleaded softly. "Mom, you love me the most, right? Please say yes. Ryan Blake is also a triple award-winning actor. Not bad at all. I kind of want to play around in the entertainment industry, too." My mother couldn't resist her spoiled tone. She exchanged a look with my father, then nodded. Haley gave me a smug look, her eyes full of provocation. She walked over and whispered, "A husband that useless? You can have him. Enjoy yourself." Hearing those words and realizing that her choices were completely different from before, I immediately knew she had been reborn too. My mother turned to me, who had been silent this whole time, and said coldly, "Since that's decided, Vivian, you'll marry Ethan Carter. But since you're the one benefiting from this, as the older sister, you must compensate your little sister." After thinking for a moment, she made the decision herself, not caring whether I agreed or not. "You'll transfer 5% of your company shares to your sister." My father gently patted Haley's head and added, "And Daddy will give you that skyscraper downtown. My precious girl shouldn't suffer any disadvantage when she marries into the Blake family." "All right then," he concluded, "the alliance between the Carter and Blake families is settled." I lowered my head and let out a bitter laugh. The 5% of company shares I had were a gift from my grandfather. Meanwhile, my parents had already given Haley 10% of their shares the moment she turned 18. And not once had they given me anything. Now they wanted to take away the only thing I had left, just to please her. I had known since I was a child that my parents favored my sister, but seeing such blatant favoritism still made my heart turn cold. They didn't care about how I felt at all. To them, being the older sister meant I should always give in. But after so many years of bias and unfairness, I found I couldn't even bring myself to care anymore. Ethan Carter was incredibly generous with the betrothal gifts. Among them was 7% of the Carter Group's shares, worth far more than what my family had given. On top of that, he gave his wife an unlimited black card, and every month he added another $10 million in allowance. In this life, my sister stole Ryan Blake from me and tossed Ethan Carter my way instead. I couldn't help but laugh to myself. A husband who's rarely home but gives me endless money to spend. What kind of woman wouldn't like that? My sister really had no idea what she was missing. She wanted the happiness that was once mine, but this was something she could never have. After Ethan and I met, we quickly went to register our marriage. That night, I packed my bags, and moved into his penthouse apartment in the heart of Capital City. Wearing a silk nightgown, I leaned against the window, smiling as I watched Ethan's long, slender fingers expertly knot his tie. He was flying abroad that very night for a business negotiation, on our wedding night. And he didn't even know when he'd be back. Both of us silently understood and never brought up the idea of holding a wedding ceremony. Ethan had a cool, aloof aura about him. His deep eyes met mine, and his smooth, magnetic voice carried a touch of apology. "Vivian, I'm sorry I can't be with you on our wedding night." He took out a black card, placed it gently on the bar counter, and said casually, "Use this however you like. It's linked to my main account. I'll come back soon to spend time with you, okay?" I looked at his handsome, cold face, then my gaze slipped down over his broad shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs. Even if certain things weren't ideal, he was still a fine man to look at. I licked my lips slightly and smiled. "All right, honey. I'll wait for you at home. Wish you a smooth trip." Ethan's body froze for a second, but he quickly regained his composure, nodded, and walked out with his luggage. As I watched his back disappear through the door, a bright smile curved my lips. Half a month later, it was my sister Haley's wedding to Ryan Blake. The ceremony was held on a private island. Besides the influential business figures my parents invited, nearly half of the biggest stars in the entertainment industry showed up at Ryan's invitation. After the ceremony, the crowd and noise became too much, so I slipped away to find a quiet corner to rest. I had no interest in joining the after-party, but Haley, glowing with self-satisfaction, followed me deliberately. She linked her arm with mine and said in a sugary voice, "Sis, are you happy after getting married? Oh, I almost forgot. Ethan Carter can't, do that kind of thing, right? I heard on your wedding night he left you behind to fly overseas." She giggled, her tone full of mock sympathy. "But Ryan dotes on me so much. He loves me, cherishes me like I'm a jewel. He even said I was his first love. Love at first sight. Though honestly, he's so energetic that I could barely handle it all night. Ha ha! Even today, on our wedding day, he couldn't control himself. If it weren't for concealer, I wouldn't be able to hide the marks." The corner of my mouth twitched as my eyes drifted toward the far side of the room. There, Ryan Blake was flirtatiously squeezing the butt of a young male actor, even grinding against him a little behind the crowd. I gave Haley a faint, mocking smile. "Oh, really?" Haley was as naive and clueless as she'd been 15 years ago. I could hardly wait to see her face when she discovered the truth. In my past life, I already knew that Haley was a woman obsessed with desire and blinded by lust. Barely 6 months after marrying Ethan Carter, she couldn't stand the loneliness and slept with a male model. She was even caught on camera, the two of them entering a hotel together, all over each other. I still remembered overhearing someone tease Ethan back then. "Ethan, you and your wife really have your own unique arrangement, huh? Getting cheated on and still acting so calm about it?" Ethan Carter had only replied coldly, "It doesn't matter." After that, Haley, comforted and flattered by that male model, was happier than ever. When she returned home, she told our parents she wanted to divorce Ethan. She completely lost control, shouting, "Ethan never even touched me. I want a divorce. I can't live with him anymore. He's not even a real man." My parents, who had always spoiled her, got furious for the first time. They actually hit her and refused to support her ridiculous demand. After that, things between Haley and Ethan fell apart completely. She became even more reckless, using his money to keep younger men, and one time, Ethan even caught her red-handed in their own house while she was cheating. Meanwhile, Ryan Blake and I had become the golden couple, our names constantly topping the trending searches online. He often posted on social media about the little things I liked, got photographed late at night buying pads for me, and even woke up at 5 in the morning to line up at a tiny breakfast stall in the next city just to buy my favorite steamed buns. I was afraid of pain and didn't want to have children, and he publicly announced that he'd get a vasectomy so I wouldn't have to go through it. Whenever people mentioned love or talked about perfect celebrity couples, they always mentioned us. That New Year's Eve, when Ryan and I were invited home for dinner, Haley sat alone in a corner, her eyes full of jealousy and resentment as she glared at me. By then, she was already on the front page of every newspaper. caught cheating and exposed as HIV positive. Ethan finally agreed to divorce her, kicked her out of his house, and forced her to issue a public statement. My parents, afraid of offending the Carter family, wanted me to clean up Haley's mess. That's when I realized the only reason my mother had suddenly invited me home for dinner was because of this. "Vivian," she said, "you and Haley have similar figures. Go tell Ethan that you were the one photographed cheating. Tell him you're the one who's infected. You're her older sister. You should sacrifice for your little sister. Besides, you and Ryan are now the model couple of the entertainment world. He wouldn't dare, and couldn't possibly, hold it against you over such a small matter." I sneered at their stupidity. But in the end, that same jealousy, that same hatred, was what had driven Haley to kill me so cruelly. I could still hear her screaming, "Vivian, how dare you live happier than me? Go to hell." And yet, after coming back to life, she still believed that by choosing Ryan Blake, she could have a perfect marriage and a blissful life. Completely unaware that Ryan and the entire Blake family were monsters to their core. I contacted Ethan's elite team of lawyers, the ones who never lost a case, and took them straight to my parents' house. After a series of negotiations and threats, my father finally agreed to pay me a compensation of $10 billion before I transferred that 5% of company shares to Haley. Soon after, I established a charity foundation. This time, I wanted to finish what I hadn't been able to do in my previous life. Those bright, beautiful lives should never have been trampled under the feet of parasites like them. But the amount of money required was enormous. It needed Ethan Carter's signature. He didn't question anything. He just called me and said, "Vivian, the project's in its final stage. I'll be home soon." I was a little puzzled as to why he'd tell me his whereabouts, but I quickly brushed off the thought and didn't think much of it. After setting up the foundation, the first thing I did was hire a third party to help me investigate the Blakes. That's when I found out that their so-called family secretary, Claire, was actually their adopted daughter, and Ryan's secret mistress. As for Haley, with Ryan's connections in the entertainment industry and the financial backing of my family, she quickly landed the lead role in a high-budget fantasy drama. The show exploded in popularity, and she officially debuted as the female lead. When I had some free time, I watched a few episodes of the drama. To my surprise, Haley's acting was actually quite good. I hadn't expected her to really find a path of her own, and in such a coincidental way, too. Whether intentionally guided or not, her growing fame drew more and more speculation online about her background. Before long, she climbed straight up the trending charts. Then, a single post from Carter and Grant Corporation sent the gossipers into a frenzy. Carter and Grant Corporation, Haley Grant, the beloved daughter of our chairman. Madam Grant would like to thank everyone for their love and support for her precious girl. Like, share, and comment on this post to enter a giveaway. 520 lucky winners will share $3 billion in prizes. 66 winners will receive our newest luxury product collection, and 88 winners will get the latest smartphones. The comment section exploded. "Oh my God, Haley Grant not only has the looks but can actually act too. And she's a real-life heiress? Did heaven just close off every other door for her and leave only the best ones open?" My sweet baby Haley, gorgeous and adorable, she's the perfect, rich, beautiful princess type. She's stunning, talented, kind, and has an unbeatable background. She's literally the definition of a winner. Please let me borrow just a little of her divine luck. She's not only beautiful, but also seems so well educated. Is she really the only daughter of her parents? They must spoil her so much. Right at the height of that online chaos, Starline TV suddenly dropped a bombshell post on its official account. Starline TV, final guests confirmed for celebrity couples daily life, Ryan Blake and Haley Grant. The whole internet went wild. But what I didn't expect was that Haley would actually bring the entire production crew straight to my house, without even warning me beforehand. Early that morning, I was still half asleep when her call came in. I'd been up late the night before, and my head was still foggy. Her voice, sweet and gentle over the line, made my stomach twist. "Hey sis, my husband and I are coming to visit you in a bit," she chirped. "You know I'm part of that new variety show, right? I thought I'd bring all the viewers along too. They can see if your dear husband's been treating you well." Her intention was obvious. She wanted to come show off, to humiliate me for living alone, and to flaunt how happy her marriage was compared to mine. But just then the man beside me stirred. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his hand gently massaging my sore waist. His voice was low, rich, and utterly seductive. "Who was that, Vivian? You're up this early. Aren't you tired?" Haley froze for a second on the other end before letting out a sly little laugh. "Oh, I see, sis. Seems like you couldn't hold yourself back either, huh?" So that's what she thought. That I was cheating, keeping some young lover at home. The man's cool fingers brushed against my lips, then slowly traced downward. My thoughts turned hazy. I completely forgot I was still on the phone. He chuckled softly, took the phone from my hand, and ended the call. Then his lips pressed against mine. Slow, deliberate, intoxicating. His warm breath washing over me like waves against a drifting boat. I unconsciously grabbed his hair, my voice trembling as I whispered his name. "Ethan." He let out a deep sound, his tone rough with desire, and the air between us quickly grew feverish. Our breathing mingled, our heartbeats falling into rhythm together. I was dizzy, my mind spinning, and scenes from the night before flashed through my head. I had been soaking in the bathtub, sipping a few glasses of red wine to help me sleep. When I stood up, the world tilted, and I slipped. The bathroom door had opened at that exact moment, and I was lifted gently into someone's arms. It was Ethan Carter. When I lifted my head and saw Ethan's handsome, cold face, for a moment I thought I was imagining things. My mind went blank, completely dazed by how stunning he was. My hands instinctively wrapped around his neck as I gasped his name. He whispered something softly against my ear. I couldn't quite make out the words, and continued what he was doing. Ethan held me tightly under the shower, the water cascading down our bodies. There was a storm brewing in his eyes, and his movements were fierce and unstoppable. My mind went utterly blank. The only thought that flickered through it was absurd and senseless. Ethan Carter. This feels way too good. By the time I finished getting dressed, Haley had already shown up at my place, with the entire film crew in tow. She had even decided to livestream it today. The live viewer count shot up to nearly 30 million, and the comments flooded across the screen nonstop. "She lives in the top-floor penthouse of a luxury complex? Oh my God, what kind of billionaire is she married to? Wait, could this be the legendary tycoon from Capital City? He's not some old, ugly guy, right? Your precious Haley looks amazing, but why didn't Carter and Grant tag her sister in their last post?" The production crew didn't even bother greeting me. They immediately started setting up equipment around the living room. I frowned. Haley slowly walked up, pretending to be polite as she smiled for the camera. "Hey sis, is your husband home? Can I show my fans around your place?" Before I could respond, she turned to the lens with a bright, sugary smile, grabbed a GoPro, and started wandering from room to room, filming every corner of the house. It was obvious she wanted to give her millions of viewers a front-row seat, hoping to catch me in the act of cheating. I leaned against the marble counter, sipping warm water to soothe my throat, and watched Haley prance around like a clown. The smirk tugging at my lips deepened. She was definitely going to be disappointed. Ethan had gone out earlier to pick up some food for me, but he'd be back any minute now. When Haley didn't find anything suspicious, her expression darkened. Just then, Ryan Blake arrived, fashionably late, with his male assistant. I immediately noticed the assistant's slightly swollen lips and had to look away, disgusted. That man had always been the one closest to Ryan. Haley's eyes lit up the moment she saw him. She giggled and threw herself into his arms, whining affectionately, "Honey, you're here!" She nestled into his chest like a spoiled little bird, then turned to glance at me smugly. "Sis, your house feels so cold and lonely. Good thing we came to warm you up. But hey, your husband's not home? Ryan and I were hoping to say hi to him. Don't tell me he really hasn't been back since your wedding?" The moment she said it, she quickly covered her mouth, feigning guilt, and stuck her tongue out playfully at the camera. "Oops, sorry sis. I think I said too much. Don't be mad, okay?" Ryan smiled indulgently, tapped her forehead with his finger, and whispered something in her ear. Haley blushed, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed him passionately. The crew members whistled and cheered, pushing the camera closer to capture the scene. The live stream chat went absolutely insane. They're so in love. God, they're perfect together. The chemistry between them is unreal. I rolled my eyes and glanced at my watch. What's taking building security so long? Suddenly, Haley's cheeks flushed red as she walked over and linked her arm through mine, pretending to be affectionate and concerned, though her intentions were anything but kind. I pulled my arm away, but she leaned closer, her voice low and syrupy as she pointed at the faint mark on my neck. Sis, is that a hickey? But your husband isn't home, is he? Her voice was quiet enough to sound like a private whisper between sisters. But she was wearing a mic. The livestream camera immediately zoomed in on me, capturing every detail. I froze for a second, my expression hardening. I'd never liked, nor would I ever get used to, being exposed under the public eye. I hated being put under a microscope like that. My brows furrowed as I reached out and shoved the camera pointing at me aside. The cameraman clearly hadn't expected me to be that strong. The camera slipped from his grip and crashed onto the floor. I let out a cold laugh. If there's any damage, you can discuss compensation with my lawyer. The comment section on the live stream exploded instantly. Holy crap, a rich family scandal. Those marks on her neck are insane. Totally looks like she's cheating. God, these upper-class people are a mess. Please save our innocent little Haley. She's pure and kind, unlike that homewrecker. Old rich husbands can't satisfy their wives, so of course they look for young guys. They're all like that when they have money. Disgusting. Only Haley's love is something to admire. Judging by that look on her face, even 18 men wouldn't be enough for her. Gross. She's probably caught something by now. Hey, sugar mama, if you're that desperate, come find me. I'll definitely do better than your old man. Haley let out a theatrical gasp, then turned to me with mock sympathy, her eyes full of ridicule. Sis, I totally understand that your husband might have married you but never touched you. But that doesn't mean you should cheat, right? The Carter family won't accept such a shameless daughter-in-law. I looked at her coldly, my tone flat. Do you think I'm you? You really believe you can throw accusations around without proof? Then I leaned closer to her ear and whispered, Not everyone's like you, Haley. Not every woman needs a man to survive. Wake up. Ryan Blake isn't what you think he is. Be careful, or one day you'll lose everything. Haley's face twisted with fury, her fake gentle mask completely shattered. She raised her hand to slap me, but before I could even react, someone yanked her backward. Ethan had returned. His sharp voice cut through the room. Haley, are you out of your mind? Her face went pale. Ethan? How are you here? When I called Vivian earlier, the man with her, that was you? She shook her head, panicking. No, that's impossible. You can't be. She was with someone else. I heard it. Ethan, you came just in time, she shouted, her voice trembling. Vivian cheated on you. You should kick her out right now. Ryan quickly pulled her into his arms, stroking her hair and murmuring something soothing, while she pretended to sob against his chest. I felt a wave of awkwardness as Ethan's gaze met mine. He stood there, tall and composed, his presence powerful and refined. A luxury watch worth millions gleamed on his wrist, but in his hand was a plastic bag holding takeout hot pot. The contrast was almost absurd. He glanced at me briefly, then lowered his eyes and set the food on the table. When he looked up again, his expression turned icy, and his gaze locked on Haley like a blade. If there's something wrong with your head, Haley, go get it treated, he said flatly. If my wife isn't with me, who else would she be with? I went downstairs for 5 minutes to pick up food, and you stormed in here, accusing her of cheating and harassing her. Who gave you the right? Then his cold eyes turned toward Ryan. I've now seen firsthand how the Blake family was raised. Get her out of my house. Within minutes, the internet blew up with new trending topics. Haley Grant's two-faced nature exposed. Haley Grant accuses her own sister of cheating. Vivian and Ethan Carter, the sweetest real couple ever. My name shot up the trending charts in record time. Ryan's expression darkened, a flash of something cold and sinister in his eyes, but he said nothing. He just wrapped his arm around Haley, who was trembling and humiliated, and led her out of the house. The Blake and Carter families really were worlds apart. One of the building's managers stormed in, sweating and out of breath, followed by security guards. They started ushering the production crew toward the door. You can't just barge in here without clearance. The manager scolded. The crew resisted, shouting defensively. Haley brought us in. She's the homeowner's sister. It's all in the family. We didn't need to register. One of the guards grabbed a camera tripod, and the lead cameraman yelled, "Let go! If you break our equipment, can you afford to pay for it?" I pressed my fingers against my temple, my gaze sharp as it swept over the cameras still pointed at Ethan and me. Without a hint of hesitation, I knocked each one down, one after another, letting them crash hard against the floor. "Starline TV, right?" I said loudly. "You barged into my home and filmed without my consent, violating my privacy and damaging my reputation. You'll be receiving a legal notice from the Carter Group's law department soon, under my husband's name. Now get out. I've already called the police." The crowd that had been loud and chaotic just moments ago instantly scattered. The room fell silent again. I took a deep breath and turned back. Ethan was leaning casually against the wall, one eyebrow slightly raised, his eyes locked on me. Then he let out a low chuckle. "My wife?" he teased. My cheeks flushed bright red. I tried to glare at him but failed miserably. "What? You've already eaten me alive and I can't even borrow your legal department now?" "Of course you can," he said smoothly, the corner of his lips curving into a smirk. "It's my honor." Ethan glanced at the mess on the floor, then walked over and scooped me up effortlessly. "I've already called for someone to clean this up. It's still early. Come rest for a bit." I wriggled in his arms. "Wait, my spicy hot pot." His eyes glinted playfully as he gave my waist a light squeeze. "Are you sure you're not tired?" My breath caught. "Ethan, you." Before I could finish, my body went weak against him. He carried me to the bed, set me down gently, then sat beside me and began scrolling through his phone with his usual calm, focused expression. From where I lay, I could hear the faint sound of his phone vibrating again and again, messages popping up one after another. Still no reply after one night? "What, you've got a nightlife now?" "Damn it, I just saw the news. You got married and didn't tell your friends? So you finally got what you wanted, huh? No wonder you've been working yourself half to death just to shorten your time abroad." "When do we get to meet the legendary Mrs. Carter?" "Ethan Carter. Screw off." I blinked, watching him in quiet curiosity. In my previous life, Ethan hadn't returned from overseas until the end of the year. So why had he come back so early this time? And he'd been home with me the entire night and morning. Was his coldness toward Haley because of something else? Before falling asleep, I couldn't help but ask softly, "Ethan, what if the one who married you wasn't me, but Haley?" He frowned, reached over to pat my head, and cut me off mid-sentence. "She's too stupid." Meanwhile, all of Haley's scandals were quickly wiped clean from the internet. With enough money and PR power, the web had no memory. People forgot fast. Soon, her image was completely whitewashed again. Ryan Blake even bought her a small asteroid and named it Haley, wrapped entire city billboards worth millions in love confessions, and shared daily posts about their perfect life and Haley's adorable little quirks. During her time filming, Ryan was photographed multiple times visiting her on set. Before long, the public opinion shifted once more. Fans began shipping them again as the Haley and Ryan couple. Then Haley called me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Vivian, I'm pregnant. What do you think about that? You're jealous, aren't you? You see how much Ryan loves me this time, and it drives you crazy, right? You're just bitter that you can't have what I do." She giggled smugly before continuing. "Ryan's been so considerate lately. He's even been sleeping in separate rooms just so he doesn't hurt me. Unlike your husband, Ethan doesn't have time to deal with you anymore. Does he? I wonder how it feels, watching him lose project after project, getting crushed under everyone else's feet." Just as she said that, she added one more jab. "Oh, and guess what? The Blakes and my family just teamed up and won the land that the Carter Group had been trying to acquire for years." I didn't listen any further. I hung up immediately. What an idiot. Even with the memories of her previous life, she was still too blind to realize what she'd gotten herself into. Feeding the Blake family information that would one day destroy her completely. She might have known the direction of Ethan Carter's next investment, but just having a bit of insider information and getting there first didn't guarantee success. Besides, I had already warned Ethan to be cautious long ago. As for Ryan Blake, I let out a cold laugh and pulled up a short video file my private investigator had sent me. In it, Ryan was passionately kissing a young male actor. I forwarded the clip anonymously to Haley. She really thought their love was pure and sincere, but the truth was, she was just one of his many playthings. In my previous life, after I married Ryan, every time he tried to get intimate with me, I could smell strange perfumes clinging to his skin. It disgusted me so much that I always pushed him away. Eventually, he stopped pretending altogether. His life was filled with models and young influencers, swapping them out like disposable accessories. I moved into my own apartment, no longer considering our marriage anything more than a hollow formality. It wasn't until later that I discovered just how twisted he really was. Ryan wasn't even particular about gender. He hosted private orgies and swinger parties, and even had a child with an ex-boyfriend overseas. The moment I found out, I was repulsed beyond words. I threw the evidence in his face and demanded a divorce, even offering him half of our shared assets just to end it. But Ryan Blake was a vile, shameless man. He had hidden cameras installed all over the house. Using my nude photos as leverage, he threatened me not to expose his videos or his scandals. To the public, he put on an act of being the perfect, devoted husband, parading our marriage before the media. I had no choice but to play along for the time being, all while secretly collecting every bit of evidence I needed to destroy him. I gathered more than 10 solid proofs of his crimes, everything from his fake vasectomy records to his lies about loving me. Most of those so-called loving gestures he showed the press had been staged, with a body double standing in for me. Just as I was about to strike back and end him for good, Haley murdered me. Right when my revenge was about to succeed, everything ended in blood. I clenched my fists at the memory. I couldn't tell whether in this life Ryan had truly fallen for Haley, or if she was simply clinging to him too tightly to give him room to play. Either way, I hired a private investigator to watch him closely. For months there was nothing suspicious, no evidence of cheating, no scandals, until Haley got pregnant. That was when things finally started to unravel. I kept in touch with Claire Blake, the secretary who worked for the Blake family, through encrypted emails. Eventually, we arranged to meet in person at a private members-only club. It was the height of summer, the air thick with heat. Claire showed up completely covered. Long sleeves, long pants, even gloves. The bits of skin she couldn't hide were bruised, mottled red and purple. I looked away quickly, not wanting to embarrass her, but she didn't seem to care. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hollow as she told me what had been happening in the Blake household. Ryan and his male assistant were caught by Haley. She followed them and saw everything. I quietly passed her an address, the location of Ryan's son overseas. She continued. Haley found the boy. She almost strangled him. My stomach turned cold. Claire went on. Now Ryan's locked her in the house. There are guards watching her day and night. She handed me a small USB drive. Everything's on here. Some of it's yours. Some are videos of the other women. Please cover their faces if you use them. I've heard about Ethan's legal team. They've never lost a case. I believe this evidence is enough to bring the Blakes down. I nodded. Don't worry. Protecting their privacy is the least I can do. She gave a faint smile. I have to go. Ryan's brother Charles Blake won't let me out of his sight for long. My heart skipped. I stared at her, stunned. I had warned her again and again through email not to get involved with Charles. I couldn't believe she'd still ended up tangled with him. Claire? You and Charles? I asked carefully. Her lips curved into a faint bitter smile, her expression full of exhaustion and pain. Ever since the day he sneered at me, he forced himself on me. He had locked away every trace of her freedom, controlling her in every possible way. I had been waiting for this moment for so long that everything which had happened before no longer mattered. In my previous life, when I first met Claire Blake, she'd been thrown out of a car onto the highway after an argument with Charles Blake. I took her home that night. After that, whenever she had nowhere else to go, she would show up at my apartment. I never asked why. I just opened a bottle of wine, and we'd drink together in silence. Later, I found out the truth. Even though Claire was the adopted daughter of the Blake family, Charles had forced her to become his secret mistress. He both hated and loved her to a maddening degree. When he discovered she was trying to escape, he went berserk and dragged her to one of those depraved partner-swapping parties to punish her, to make her so terrified she'd never dare to leave him again. But when someone at that party tried to touch her, Charles suddenly snapped. He beat the man half to death and dragged Claire out of there himself. That night, Claire had been wearing a hidden camera. She'd only meant to use it as leverage to make Charles let her go, but unexpectedly, the footage also captured several high-profile figures. Among them was Ryan Blake. So when I saw that video again in this life, I realized Claire had lived through the same nightmare as before. Half a month later, late one night, I received another message from her. She sent me an address and a time, the location of the next party. What I didn't expect was how twisted Ryan had become. He had released Haley only to use the same filthy trick he always used, blackmailing her with nude photos, before dragging her to that very gathering. Some of the powerful men there had recently developed a grotesque obsession with playing games involving pregnant women. By the time the police stormed in, the scene was drenched in blood. Haley was lying there, her body broken and covered in bruises. She caught sight of Ryan being pinned down by officers, and in a fit of hysterical rage, she grabbed a steak knife from the table and plunged it again and again into his abdomen. "Ryan Blake, you monster! Go to hell, you liar!" The police tore her away moments later and dragged her out, screaming. Sometimes heaven and hell are only a heartbeat apart. I had feared things might spiral out of control, so after meeting with Claire, I immediately turned over every piece of evidence and the full list of victims to the authorities. With solid proof and the unmatched skill of Ethan Carter's 5-lawyer team, the Blake Corporation was swiftly sealed off. Both Ryan and Charles Blake were sentenced to life imprisonment, and several other prominent figures fell along with them. When the official report hit the trending charts, the entire internet froze in disbelief. Those two Blake brothers are absolute psychopaths. Tax evasion, orgies, blackmail, fraud, you name it, they did it. Ryan slept with both men and women, threatened fans, and even had a child with his ex-boyfriend abroad. Those so-called auditions they held before, they were just picking sex slaves. Disgusting. The fakest couple in the entire entertainment industry, that phony wife and that filthy player. I need to bleach my eyes. I can't believe people actually ship them. My dinner's about to come back up. Meanwhile, the Magnolia Foundation, the charity I'd established, began trending across every platform. Its purpose had always been clear: to help women who had nowhere left to turn. When they stood on the edge of despair, I wanted there to be at least one place that could give them courage and hope. In my past life, I'd seen far too many ordinary women and small-time actresses blackmailed with nude photos. Those beasts with money and power left their victims no choice but to suffer in silence. Some had dared to come forward to expose the abuse publicly, but the heartless media hadn't even blurred their faces. Instead, they mocked them, questioned them. And in the end, that woman, she had jumped off a building to prove her innocence. And tragedies like that had happened far too many times. The comment section on social media quickly flooded with messages. This foundation was founded by Vivian and Ethan Carter. Oh, I know about that one. A while ago, my sister was going through a nasty divorce with a rich guy. She couldn't afford a good lawyer, and it was the Magnolia Foundation that helped her. Yeah, they even sent her an amazing attorney, and she ended up getting half the guy's assets, plus full custody of her son. I almost cried watching their introduction video. There really are some genuinely good women in this world. They even offer free legal counseling. My mom needed nearly $100,000 for surgery. After I uploaded her documents, the foundation contacted me right away and gave me a loan with super low interest. I'm so grateful. And that one line from their official page, so powerful. If any media dares to expose a victim's photos, we'll take it to the end. This really is the undefeated 5-lawyer team of the Carter Group. Meanwhile, the Blake family officially declared bankruptcy. Their assets were quickly seized and auctioned off by the government to pay for the multi-billion-dollar project debt they had shared with my family. Because of that, the Grant Corporation's projects were suspended as well. Within a short time, My parents were forced to sell off large portions of their property and shares just to stay afloat. They barely managed to avoid public bankruptcy, but the company's scale shrank to its smallest in history. While Ethan and I were on vacation by the sea, my parents called over and over. When I didn't answer, they started using different numbers, spamming my phone with messages. "Vivian, pick up the phone. How could you be so cold and heartless? The family business is in crisis, and you're just sitting there doing nothing. Call Ethan now, he's the only one who can save us. Your sister's gone crazy, she gave Ethan up for you. Is this how you repay her?" I let out a bitter laugh. They always knew how to stand on their moral high ground, hurling guilt at me like weapons. Their company's failure was the result of their own bad decisions. What did it have to do with me? I had even tried to warn Haley, but she ignored me. If anything, I was glad they were finally being forced to sell off their assets. Most of those shares had already fallen into my hands for next to nothing. I frowned, blocked their numbers, and turned off my phone. Ethan tightened his arms around me, his voice low and husky against my ear. "Vivian, you're not focused." I gasped as his breath brushed my neck, my body melting under his touch. My mind spun. Everything else faded away. The phone, the world outside, all of it. I don't know how long had passed when my phone screen lit up again, but I didn't care to look. My parents must have seen something online because they started messaging me from yet another new number. "Vivian, you spent hundreds of millions buying a yacht, but you can't help your own family?" Ethan and I had been at sea for almost 2 weeks, completely off the grid. I hadn't realized that while we were gone, my name had once again climbed to the top of the trending searches. The headline read, "Ethan Carter spends tens of millions to spoil his wife." To celebrate his wife Vivian's birthday, Ethan Carter reportedly purchased a brand new luxury yacht worth tens of millions as a birthday gift. The news broke the internet. But the person who lost it the most wasn't the public. It was Haley. When she saw the headline, she completely snapped. "Why?" she screamed, shoving her phone to the floor. "Why is it always her? 2 lifetimes, 2 damn lifetimes, and I still can't have happiness. This isn't how it's supposed to be. In our last life, Ethan didn't love her, and Ryan didn't love Vivian either. No, this can't be right." Her eyes filled with hatred and madness. "It's her. It's all Vivian's fault." Blinded by jealousy and rage, she hired an online marketing firm, paying a fortune for them to edit malicious videos of me and Photoshop fake nude photos, all to ruin my reputation. She even went so far as to buy a fake medical report from a hospital claiming that I was HIV positive. But by now, every media and marketing company in the industry was terrified of Ethan Carter's 5-lawyer team. The moment they received Haley's order, they immediately reported it to the Carter Group's legal department. When the police broke in, Haley was sitting in front of her computer, staring at the maliciously edited photos of me. She was laughing. Wild, hysterical laughter that sent chills down my spine. "Vivian," she screamed, "enjoy every bit of pain I'm sending your way. All the suffering I endured in my last life, I'll make you live through every second of it. I don't believe Ethan will still want you after this. He abandoned me before, so why should you get to be happy? For the rest of your life, you'll stay under my feet where you belong." Then, she clutched her stomach, crying and laughing all at once like someone completely detached from reality. The police quickly restrained her and sent her for psychiatric evaluation. In the end, Haley was committed to a mental hospital. My parents, helpless and desperate, could do nothing but sell off all their remaining company shares to pay for her treatment. After acquiring the company myself, I overhauled its investment strategy and secured several major projects. Within months, the company successfully went public on the stock exchange. I renamed it Magnolia Corporation. Meanwhile, my parents were living a life of bitter irony. Working as factory laborers during the day, tightening screws on assembly lines, and selling trinkets on the street at night. On top of that, they had to take care of their unstable daughter, who was constantly threatening suicide. They'd already been hospitalized several times for heart attacks, but their lives, their misery and regret, had nothing to do with me anymore. I had stopped caring about them a long time ago. Sometime later, on our first wedding anniversary, Ethan and I finally held a wedding ceremony. A simple one. attended only by me, his family, and a few close friends. After the ceremony, he slung a guitar over his shoulder, took my hand, and led me down to the beach. The two of us sat in the sand as the sunset melted into the sea. He looked at me with those deep, quiet eyes and began to sing. It was a love song, Attention, by Leon Han, his voice steady and full of emotion. The lyrics had been changed slightly, and though the words were subtle, I understood everything he was trying to say. There was a girl, he sang softly. When we were little, every time I went to her house, she'd just sit there quietly, never smiling. I always wanted to talk to her, but she never seemed to like me. Still, that one little smile she gave me that day, it was enough. My eyes never looked at anyone else after that. I think I've loved her all my life. I thought it would always stay that way, until she finally agreed to marry me. Until the day she started to love me back. My eyes burned. Tears slipped down my cheeks before I could stop them. I leaned forward and kissed him deeply. It's not just a little love, Ethan, I whispered. I love you, and thank you for waiting for me so long. Suddenly, a memory from my past life surfaced, something I had overheard once when Ethan was talking with his friends. He'd said those simple words. It's okay. Now I finally understood. It's okay meant, if it wasn't me, then nothing else mattered to him anyway. Ethan and I, we were like two sparrows from the mountains, fragile but unyielding. In this life, we had finally crossed the valleys, soared through the clouds, and found our way to each other. Through every storm, every shadow, and every ounce